Sorry I'm late. I had a little bit of problem with one of my examples that I was running prior to class. And therefore I was looking for a workaround, and I think I know what I'm gonna do, but we'll go from there. What I want to show you is two different things today. I want to show you, first of all, how we can create a multi-page site using Razor Pages, using the web application that we project that we used last time to create a default set of pages. So I'm going to look at that, and then I want to add in the coding aspect to it, because really the advantage of Razor Pages is not just that we the advantage of Razor Pages is not just that we can create static pages, but that we can create dynamic pages as well. So I want to get into an example. It's a simple example with some coding, but we'll first do the other example, the one we're just going to create multiple pages. So let's get into Visual Studio. If you have questions or issues, or if you can't hear me, type in the chat. Of course, you can't hear me. You can't hear that statement. So how about a confirmation? Can you all hear me? Someone could type in the chat. Okay, yes. But great if they would have typed no. I'd have sat here puzzled for the rest of the day. All right, so I'm going to create a new project. So I'll go up under File, New, Project, Recent Project Templates, and I'm going to use this one, ASP.NET for Web App. That's what we used last time. And the core is going to come in later on when we get into database interactivity. Right now, we're not really taking advantage of that, but we will at some point. So I'm going to click on that and click Next. What do we want to call it? Let's call it Razor Page Example 1. And I want to put it on the desktop. Next. Well, this looks cool. No authentication type. Later on in the semester, we'll handle the ability to log on to a site. Create. And it's going to do its thing, and it's going to create a folder that has a lot of stuff in it. Now, through our various views, we can set what we want to see. I usually open up the Solution Explorer. That shows me all the files in there. So when you create an empty Razor Page application, you get a lot of stuff, including some sample pages. And as we look over here, you'll see we get the solution file, which is part of the application folder, which is cool. It keeps everything together. We get the project file. We get some other files, some C# course source file, JSON files, and so on. Now, when you go to turn something in with the Razor Page project, I need all of these files. The project will not run without these files. Therefore, find your folder that your solution's in, right mouse on it, say send to zip. That is, send to compressed file. And that's what you're going to turn in. can't just give me the page that you worked on or a couple pages that you worked on or something like that. You have to give me the whole shebang. All right. So we showed this last time, and we showed with this example, we get some pages for free. We get a privacy policy page, we get an index page, and we get an error page that is used in case there are some errors. So if I run this, we'll see what we've gotten. And we did this last time. I'm just doing this for review. It goes and does its thing, and it's going to pop up in a browser a welcome page with the home and the privacy page. Fair enough. Okay. We saw last time where this comes from. We have code or HTML code in two places. In other words, that index page that you saw was a result of two different pages. Underscore layout.cshtml, think of that as a template for your web pages. If you want to change, it's going to affect all of your pages, put it there. All right. Then in pages, we have our individual pages like the error page, the privacy page, the index page. All right. If we look at that, the index page is only the thing specific to the index page. All right. So let's play around with this and let's mutate this into a page that a little mini site that we can play around with. I'm going to do a website about the courses I teach. How about that? Sounds as good an idea as any. All right. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to sketch out what I want. I'm going to draw my wireframe page to look like this. Have a banner. Maybe have my name across of it. Maybe have LC's logo. All right. I'm going to want to have a navigation. Different pages that I teach, or different courses that I teach. All right. Then each individual course will have its own page with a paragraph about it. So that's sort of the wireframe of what I want to create here. So if we think about this, right? This stuff, we want to be on every single page. The look of the page, we want to be consistent on every page. So anything we do with CSS is going to appear on the common, that layout page as well. Hope no one here is colorblind because I'm color coding this. The stuff in red is what's going to be on the layout CSHTML. And the stuff that is circled in green is going to be in the individual pages HTML. All right, so that's what I want my page to look like. So let's start off with the common stuff. We go and find the LC logo. Save that image as on the desktop, lclogo.png. Okay, so I want an image. I know I want to put it in here in the layout because that's what's going to appear on every single page. Right? So I want to put it as part of the header. Now, where do I put this within my project? I put this in my project within the www root folder. All right. www root folder is for the stuff that doesn't need the server to process it. It's like the image. The image is just the image. Server isn't doing anything to the image except delivering it. All right, so there's no like server-side code behind that creates the image or anything like that. So therefore, I'm going to put this right smack dab in here. Right? So let's go and add that to the header. Source equals, and I forgot already what the file name is. .png. And I'm going to put an alt attribute here to be the name. Nice thing when you're typing in here is notice that there is like error correction. It knows that I don't have the closing bracket. So it gives me an error. So now when I run this, let's see what we get. Here we go. We get the logo on the top of the page. And what's more, I sometimes sound like I'm one of those late night infomercial guys. And more than that, we get it on every page. Why do we get it on every page? We got it on every page because we put it part of the underscore layout.cshtml, because that's going to be the template for all our pages. When we create a new page, we're going to specify that that's the template we want to use. You actually can have multiple templates if you want to. All right. Nested templates, I'm not sure. I haven't tried that out yet. But you definitely can have multiple templates, and you could use a different template, maybe for a different section of your page. All right. So let's say I want to add, what do I have in a drawing? Oh, I didn't specify. Let's say I want to add CISS216, CISS232, and CISS243. I'm going to go and I'm going to create pages for that. I'm going to do that, but not quite yet. I changed my mind. All right. I'm going to create a CSS file because who wants the boring default CSS? It's kind of, it's there, but not terribly exciting. So we're just going to make some small changes to this, just to spice things up a little bit. Right? So let's go in and we're going to create our own CSS file. So CSS, that is not something that gets processed by the server. All right, the CSS file can be taken as is. It's not a server-side script. It's not a CSHTML or a .cs file. So the server doesn't have to process it. It just needs to deliver it. So like the image, it's going to appear into the www.root folder. I'm going to add a new item. And somewhere on this list is a style sheet. And it gives it the default name of style sheet, cleverly enough. So I'm going to make just changes just to sort of demonstrate what you can do. And I'm also going to demonstrate sort of a, what I'm going to call I don't know if I'd call it a pitfall, but really a sticky point of this. I think we'll be able to see that. Let's go in and let's simply change the background color of the page to yellow. Here's the IntelliSense, beautiful. You don't have to remember all those attribute names. Shows you the colors as you type. Life is good. All right. Now when we run this, we have to do another thing though first, right? We have to link this style sheet to the page that we're using, right? Now, we're not going to link it on each individual page. We want every page on our site to have this style sheet. Therefore, we're going to put within the layout CSS_HTML, we're going to put a link to the style sheet. Link rel equals style sheet. href equals style sheet.css. Don't worry about the versioning. There we go. So we run this. And I think it's sort of going to work, right? Let's see what we get. It does sort of work, right? However, it also sort of doesn't work, right? It worked on big portions of the screen. So most of the body of the page it worked on and the header it worked on, all right? But it didn't work on that navigation, all right? I want to explain why that is, and I want to explain what you can do to sort of fix it. Let's say my heart set was having a navigation yellow too, right? So what do I do to fix it? Because right now it's not. Well, the reason it doesn't work completely is there's a bunch of other style sheets involved here too. There is the Bootstrap style sheet. There is a CSS site style sheet. And there's this Razor page example1.styles.css. And that one I think we can get rid of because we don't have that file. I think it wanted us to name style sheet that, but I didn't. So now that means that the code that controls the color of that navigation's in one of these places, in either this one or this one, Bootstrap, just CSS, Bootstrap mins CSS. Let's look to see if it's in this file. This file doesn't really have a lot of stuff in it. So it's not in that one. Okay. Which means it's in this one. Now, for certain files, like I've seen this done with JavaScript files, and I've seen this done with CSS files, and I don't know if I've seen it done with HTML files or not. There's a minimal version of it. And the minimal version gets rid of all the white space. All right. If you think about it, all right, a website like Google that gets millions of hits probably every minute, right? That's a lot of stuff to deliver to different clients. all right? Which means that those extra spaces that you as a programmer put in for readability, guess what? That's bytes that you have to send over the wire. And it adds up. Now remember, those spaces are there largely for our benefit. They don't have to be there. Therefore, there will be minimized versions of some of these files that get rid of the white space. So that's why we're interested in this bootstrap.min. And if we look at it, oh, there's not much in here, except there's an amazing amount of code in that one line. That one line goes 162,000 characters. All right. So, how do we find it? Well, we could look at the regular CSS file. And that's a little easier to read. Maybe we can search for that and all that. So that's a possibility of what we can do. What we want to do is we want to find what is giving that navigation bar the color. All right. So we know it's not in our style sheet. It's not in that other one we looked at. It must be in this one. So that'd be hard to kind of find looking at this one. It's like the needle in a haystack. What we can do instead is go into our browser. You got to run it first. Go into our browser, right mouse on what we want to look at. We want to look at this section here. And choose inspect. There we go. Last thing. And that shows us that navigation. And if you notice, down here, it shows me all the styles that apply to it. Remember how CSS works. You can have multiple style rules for any given HTML element. And which one takes precedence? The most specific one takes precedence. That's why my body CSS background color failed for here, because this navigation, it was defined on a lower level. Okay, so it was defined to not a lower level, a more specific level. So there is, if we look here, this is probably the winner right here. .bg white. Because if I look at all these other style rules that apply, and there's a bunch of them. It sure looks to me that the only one that deals with the color is .bg white. All right. So that gives us a tip off of what's given this color. And then what I can do is I could go into, this should work unless I miss something, which is always a possibility, not just today, but every day. All right, I'm going to close these guys down. Memory ain't what it used to be, I'll tell you. Inspect. .bg dash white. Okay. What I could do is I could actually put on my style sheet, which is after these. So if it's on the same level, the later style takes precedence. I should be able to go in here and say, you know those things that have a class of .bg white? Yeah, I actually want those to be yellow. And knock on wood, this will work to give me the desired effect. And it didn't. which means I would have more inspecting to do. I think it's telling me what is superseding it. I'm not going to bore you with this. If you run into a problem with this, let me know and I'll help you debug it. But in a nutshell, that's what you end up doing. One of these is probably also controlling the color that I just didn't notice. All right, so that is sort of a catch when you're dealing with style sheets here. All right, this actually can be a very thorny problem, and it takes me a little while to figure out this, and I don't want to bore you with me staring at the screen, which you can't even see because the camera's not even on me. All right, so that in theory is how you would do it. You would find the corresponding thing and corresponding style rule that's making it white, and you would eliminate it. I suppose the nuclear option would be this. Take out that style sheet altogether. And do it all yourself. Well, then you're back to this where it's a very basic rudimentary and you'd have to style everything yourself. But if your heart was set on getting that nav bar, that's a way to do it if you can't figure it out any other way. All right. I guess my heart isn't set on it being yellow, so we're just going to live with that. All right. Okay. How do we create these other pages? These other pages are razor pages, which do need processed by the server. They're going to be CSS HTML pages. All right. And I'm going to create, for the heck of it, 4 pages, CISS 216, 232, 243, and Fahrenheit to centigrade conversion page. All right. So I go into my pages, right mouse, say add, pick new item, and I'm going to pick razor page D. And I'm going to call it CISS 216. Actually, I lied. I'm going to create 2 just in the interest of time. Well, if I do 1, I could do 100 of them. It's the same. And notice what I get. I get CSS HTML and CSS HTML CSS. That's why you don't simply want to copy code and go in and rename files and stuff, because there's actually these 2 things come in pairs. Now, we have to be able to get there. So we have to change the navigation. Where does the navigation live? it lives in the layout file. So we go here where the other navigation was, and we can change this link to /CISS216. I'm going to get rid of the privacy page. So I changed the link here. The slash simply means it's going to start at the root and give me CISS216. Now you notice that doesn't say CISS216 HTML or CISS216.cshtml or anything like that. There actually is in one of these files, and I don't know off the top of my head. I think it might be program.css or program.cs. Anyhow, in one of these files, there's a whole bunch of files, and as we need them, we'll look at them. There's actually a relationship that says that CISS 216 maps to the page CISS216.cshtml. So now let's run this. And go to 216, and there we go. And of course, if we wanted to put something in about CISS216, that is unique to CISS216. Therefore, I would not go into the layout file. I would go into this file right here. And in that, I can put just plain old HTML. I could put one CISS216. And then a paragraph. Let's grab a paragraph of Greek text just to give it some content. And if we look at it, it's going to look like a completed page or semi-completed page. And we could do this with the different things. This is actually kind of what you have to do for your homework. You have to take that one HTML page that you did for the week 1 and create a razor page version of it, where each of the sections, each of the topics has its own razor page. All right. So what I've done up to here should take you through lab 1. Let's start looking, or I'm sorry, to lab 2. Let's start looking ahead though a little bit, because if you notice, associated with every one of these razor pages is a C# file where you can put some code. Now, there's for the error page. Privacy page, I'm going to guess, doesn't have anything in it. It has something in it, right? And so on. I'm going to create a second page for temperature conversion. Right mouse here, add new item. I didn't notice razor page was the first item on that list. I didn't have to go to new item. This is a little bit the long way around. And shoot, I named it index 2. I'm not going to bother renaming it, because when you rename stuff, you get into trouble. If you gave it the wrong name, you get and start over. Add, and I can just pick razor page here. Empty. Oh, new scaffolded item. I don't want it to be scaffolded. What's going to call it if it's not asking me for a name? Maybe go back to the other way. I'm going to call it temperature. All right. So what I want this page to look like is this. I want this page to look like all our other pages. So it's going to have that header at the top and the nav at the top. I want to have a text box where I enter the temperature in centigrade, right? Or I enter the temperature in Fahrenheit. I press the button and it shows me it in centigrade. So if I type in 32 Fahrenheit, I press the button to convert, it'll give me 0 centigrade. All right. This is hard to draw with. Okay. So if I'm going to develop my HTML, or I'm going to do this in 2 pieces. All right. Now I can do this in JavaScript. I understand that, but this isn't a JavaScript class, so we're going to do it on the server side. And if it makes you feel any better, consider this to be representative of like a larger, a more difficult, more complex function that you would require the server to do. All right. So I'm going to start with the HTML required to do this, and that is going to be, I actually have this finished, but I had an error running it. So I'm going to go and open the completed version. I can copy and paste code. I'm going to open it in Visual Studio Code simply because all I want to do is copy and paste it. So I'm going to put in my form the HTML to allow me to enter in the data. So on my temperature model page, I got this HTML. I have a form. All right. And right now it's giving me an error because there's no such thing as model result. I'm going to exit this out, or, copy it out for a second. So all this is a form with a button, right? I got another error. Never mind. I'll address this right away. I was going to run it and show you what it looked like, just the HTML, but never mind. I'll go in and do the model too. So this is a code that represents the user interface part of it. This doesn't have any of the server-side scripting behind it, but it's getting values from the server-side scripting thing. At model means what is the model for this page? And by model, I mean what is the C# file that contains the code that's written in order to process stuff on this page. And it's given the same name, temperature model. That's sort of a characteristic of the Razor pages. In other formats, in the model view controller, you can actually have models or pages share models. But in this case, it's sort of a one-to-one correspondent. Each Razor page has its own CSS_HTML page and its own model. Let's go in and change the model then. And I'm going to put in there that code. So this is C# code. It's a page model for the temperature CSS_HTML. I've declared 3 variables: my temperature in centigrade, my temperature in Fahrenheit, and my temperature in a result string. All right. These are values for the model, and they're public, which means that the page itself can refer to them. So when I say here, I want this to say at model temp C, it is actually referring to this variable, the value of this variable. How do I know that? Because temperature model.cs is the model for this page, and we have a variable defined as temp C. So this corresponds to that. That's why I was getting errors on them a minute ago, right? Because I hadn't declared anything in the model yet, and yet it was pointing to the model and trying to get a value. Temp F, fair enough. I guess this enters centigrade and displays Fahrenheit. My string is a result. I call result. So these are properties of this. I would imagine you've all had C# and covered properties. Is that correct? All right. So this doesn't look foreign to you? Good. All right. So these are the properties, and we can access those properties in our CSS_HTML page. So any calculation we do on those properties is available to be displayed on the CSS_HTML page. So we have 2 functions here, on get and on post. Remember, you can access a web page 2 different ways. You can either get it or post to it. And you can get it, when you first call up the web page initially, like by clicking a link or whatever. The on get is going to get called. Why? Because this is the model for this page, and therefore when that page gets got, all right, when this page it's retrieved via a get, this code is going to happen and it's going to blank out the result. However, when we enter in the data and press submit, that page gets posted to. Therefore, the onPost method is going to get called. And it's going to do the calculation. It's going to get the value from the temp C field. Temp C is the name of it. It's going to do this calculation, and it's going to create the result field by concatenating those 2. So let's run this, and, well, let's add this to the nav first of all, because I don't think I did that yet. Please add your pages to the nav. That's part of the job, right? You're creating a project here, an application. And if you can't access a page, and you have to guess to figure out how to access a page, then you didn't do the whole job. Okay, I run this. Go to convert. I type in a number. So what is 100 centigrade? It is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Yippee. All right. I'm going to post this example. Take some time to review it and make sure you understand how it works. You all probably know from other classes how to run the debugger, where you can set breakpoints here and here. And you can debug it and see the flow of instructions that get executed. We'll review this because we went over it very quickly, but we'll review this next time as well. And then we'll go on to bigger and better things with our Razor pages and the code behind. All right. After we do that, then we take a diversion in the databases for a while, and then we get into the real fun of putting databases on these pages. All right. Any questions? Any questions out there? Listening on WebEx. All right. I assume that means no. I will see you guys next week. Great. Thanks. Guess that means no questions.
Quick.
Pardon me?
Did out quick.